guys, this is Mr. James from the Kenai Community Library coming at you with another Let's Draw, and today's theme is dinosaurs. What better subject to draw than a dinosaur, and what better dinosaur to draw than a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Now, I think this is the skeleton of an Allosaurus, but we are going to be concentrating on a T-Rex today. When I was a kid, I used to kind of just say, oh, Stegosaurus is my favorite, only because everyone picked T-Rex, but in truth, T-Rex was always my favorite, and you can't go wrong drawing a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So super excited about that. I picked that theme today because our summer reading program's theme is Dig Deeper, Read, Investigate, Discover, and that just started on Monday. So if you guys haven't registered for that, you can check out our previous post with Eugene and Beatrice talking about how to register. It's a digital time log, and so we're certainly excited about that too. So get your pencils out, get them nice and sharp, your erasers, markers, and we are about to draw a dinosaur. Thanks, guys. All right, all you paleontologists out there, let's get ready to draw a dinosaur. So to do this, make sure your paper is turned horizontally, side to side. And I think what we'd like to do compositionally is if we're going to draw a full figure of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I'm going to have my T-Rex walking this way, I want to make sure I can fit my whole T-Rex. You know, one thing about compositions is you want to be able to make sure if you're going to try and fit the whole image in, it's okay to crop it or to have it go right off the edge of the page, but not in an inconvenient spot. So you don't want to lose just the feet, you know, if you want to draw a figure. So I want to make sure I fit everything in. So with that in mind, I'm going to have to make my head fairly small to make this a profile of a dinosaur. So I'm going to use just a smaller marker here to get started. And I think what I'd like to do first is just start with the back of the head and then work my way over. And then we'll kind of hit the body here. So to do the back of the head, I think what I'm going to do is kind of put a little curve to it. I did some sketches right beforehand to kind of assist me on this. But I'm going to start not at the halfway point, but a little bit over, knowing that this section generally is going to be where my head is going to be. So I'm going to put just a nice, you know, we're going to just kind of do a little mark like this. You can tell that's a pretty straight mark, and then we can kind of curve things. The beautiful thing is if you are working with pencil, if we're working with straight lines, you can always curve those lines at the very end. So I'm going to put one mark going like this. I'm going to put another mark with an angled edge. And so I'm going to put a small curve to this and just put a nice angled edge coming down like this. So I have an angle and an angle like so. A little divot, just a little divot. And I might take, if we were trying to make this a little bit more curved, you can kind of curve that on your own. But it's kind of nice to offer that as slightly curved. So I'm going to offer that edge slightly curved like this. And I'll just switch over here while we're using this. I'm going to go ahead and put a little mark coming up. So just a little mark like this. This is going to be where his brow line is. And those T-Rex have some pretty mean looking brow lines. So I'm going to put a little line coming down in kind of the same general direction as this. But I do want this to go over. So it's almost angled here, here, and then over. And then we can bring this down like so. So we have a little edge just like this, because that's going to be about where our eye will be. And next, let's go ahead and add a nice, and I'm putting a little curve to this, just a small curve, another curved line going this way. So it's a little curve going the other way. We'll bring that down a little further. And then I'm going to start to just curve that down all the way like so. And you can already see, if you guys have looked at T-Rexes recently, then you know that, you know, a lot of illustrators, contemporary illustrators, will add kind of this kind of back part to the neck, and I'm kind of excited to do that. I really like the way T-Rexes, I really like the way dinosaur artists portray particularly a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So next, let's go ahead and add the mouth. I'm going to bring this line down. So it's not coming straight across, it's coming down a little bit. And then we're going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up to about right here. Like so. So you can tell if you're looking at this closely that it's kind of going from a thin to a thick to a thin again. And it's not pointy like a beak, but it is got some kind of an edge to it right there. Real different from a dragon that we drew several weeks ago. So I'm going to put a little mark right here, a little mark coming down. So it's going like this. And then what I really love after kind of looking at several Tyrannosaurus rexes and studying them and kind of doing some quick sketches is how they almost have this mouth like a bird beak that goes really far in, even beyond where their eye goes, and it almost gives them this kind of eerie kind of smile, and I really appreciate that. So I'm going to bring this down like so, because our T-Rex is going to have his mouth just a little bit open. I'll start to curve it in to match this edge if his mouth is open like that. I'll bring this down. And that's kind of one straight line. So you can already see our T-Rex come into life right here. And we'll get in, we'll certainly add some details. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over. Now the jaw, the bottom jaw of a T-Rex, please note where I ended here. It's not way out here, or that would be way too big a bottom jaw when he closed it. It is, if you go straight up from my bottom jaw, it's about that middle point of the top jaw if you go straight up and down. So that's a good way of measuring that. You're going to constantly be measuring as you draw things. So I'm going to go ahead, maybe I'll start my jaw line, put a little mark, oops, a little too big mark, and then we'll just kind of put here, and I'm going to make it reasonably straight down to that jaw. And there we have our general T-Rex kind of head. I'm going to add the neck, and then we'll fine-tune the head, I think is a good way of going here. So I'm going to put a little mark right here, just a small little one, because he's got, just like any animal out there, there's always a little bit of a skin flab. Whenever we think of like a moose or these large mammals, and I know this isn't a mammal, but there's always this kind of nice skin flab, and I think we want to try and imitate that. I think it gives it a nice, realistic kind of look. So I'm going to bring this over like that. So this is that kind of skin flab, and it looks a little funny right now, but when we add the body, you'll see what I'm kind of going for here. Okay, let's go ahead and add some details to this T-Rex head. So one that we need to do is let's quickly throw in, I think it needs this kind of flab here for the mouth, and I'm going to curve that over. I think that was definitely needed. And I want to do the same thing over here, coming down like so, because he's going to be turned slightly towards us. So this little skin flab gives us that look, and I can appreciate that. Now, because I'm using markers, I think it's going to be important that I go ahead and add some teeth right here, and then I can add the back jaw only because I'm using markers. If I had pencil, it wouldn't be that big an issue. But I'm going to go ahead and add some teeth, maybe a little bit bigger here on the bottom, and some teeth down here. And now I'll add this back jaw here, and it'll kind of come over probably right about here and come down just behind these teeth if it starts to go over like that. So now I have that back jaw, and I can add more teeth on this back jaw. Just add a little bit more teeth back here. A giant predator with huge teeth. And so what I want to do here is I want to also bring teeth down, but I think one interesting little observation I made while kind of looking at, I was looking at some T-Rex sculptures, T-Rex paintings, T-Rex, all kinds of different resources we have. And one thing I was going to mention, if you guys happen to have a T-Rex toy at home, toys make great references. If you just need to shape it or turn it, you can always just set up your toy and kind of move it to look at it. I think it's really helpful. Even with hands, I mean, sometimes you might need an action figure to look at the hands, or you can ask your mom or dad or sibling to help you kind of just hold their hand still while you draw it. So for the teeth, what I was observing is that it looks as though the teeth get much larger, not at the end, but right here in the middle. The teeth get larger, so that's what I'm going to try and do. Space these out a little bit. That. So I have the teeth getting larger right there in the middle, and I kind of like that look. Okay, now let's crank out this eye. So for the eye, we have been practicing this, but we're going to give a nice, mean-looking brow right here. There's the mean-looking brow. I'm going to go ahead and drop that down like so. Now, one thing that a lot of artists that draw dinosaurs do is they are looking at skulls, they're looking at the entire skeleton of a dinosaur to help visualize how the muscle is on, how the skin would lay on a dinosaur. And so we want to kind of try and replicate that. We know that there's a huge kind of hole or orbit here in the skull. So let's see if we can just add a couple little marks. I'm just going to put a couple little marks like that for that orbit, and then I'm going to just put a little mark like this, and maybe just a few more little marks, because that would be where an orbit would be for underneath the skin, underneath the muscle, and where the skull would be. So let's move on to the eye itself, and I'm going to draw the eye fairly small. I'm going to start right inside this brow, and I'm going to almost make it like a triangle and put a line kind of going up, about even with this mark. And then I'm going to bring a line coming down, like so. And then I'm going to make my top one a little bit further, and then I want to bring it down like so. So you can see that it's not like a perfect football shaped. It's kind of the start of a football cut in half is what we're doing there. I think this will make an effective eye. One thing about a T-Rex is it seems to be that the eye is really caved in to its eye socket. So I'm going to add a little mark behind there, and I want to start to fill this in. So I need to drop right from the eye. I'm going to put another mark coming down, and we're starting to get this look of a T-Rex. All of this will be filled in nice and dark. And I think I'll just bring this over and bring this over like so. So we can go ahead and kind of fill in a couple of spaces. One will be this gap right here. We'll fill that in. And then I can fill in, because it's supposed to be behind, just a little behind here. And that gives the illusion that that T-Rex's head is turned. And then we want to fill in just this huge eye socket, this orbit where your eye is. I'm going to add some darks right in here. Maybe I'll leave a little bit under there, but I think for the most part, I want that to be pretty dark. I like the look of that. That looks pretty good. So nice and dark there for our T-Rex. We can probably add a few little details, just a little mark here, maybe a little mark there. I kind of can appreciate that. Maybe a little fold coming up like this. There, and so we have our T-Rex head. That's probably about all the details I need to get into right now. But let's tackle this huge body. I think I want to kind of round that out just a little bit now. Okay, so for the body, I'm going to tackle the top of this first, and I want to use my hand as a pivot. So I'm going to put my hand maybe about right here, and I'm just going to pivot that down and connect. That offers a nice little curve. Let's kind of smooth that out a little bit. Like so. And you can tell how I started with some really straight lines, and now those lines are already starting to get kind of naturally curved. Now from here, let's bring this over, and I'm going to kind of draw a pretty straight line at a slight angle. It's not straight, exactly straight going horizontally. It's got a little angle kind of coming down there. So we're already got the back of our T-Rex. Let's put a little mark here where the back leg is going to have a little mark like this. So this will go behind that edge there for the tail. We're going to come to that tail here in just a second, but before we do, let's go ahead and kind of come down here and see where the rest of this body's going to go. I think I want to bring this up a little bit further like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop down this section. It's going to be a nice little curve here too, so I'm going to bring this over. But I do need to stop. Since I'm using marker, I need to stop there knowing that there's going to be a little hand, a little T-Rex hand popping out right there. So I'll stop right there, and I'll just put a little, knowing I can fit some fingers out right there. And then I can bring this over like so. And I'm going to drop this down and just put a nice little curve right here for the belly. Let's start to bring this up, and I'll stop here for this leg that's coming down. Look how we have kind of that nice stretched out body, because he is almost running, we're going to say, today, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. For the hand, I want to do this hand closest to me first. So to do that, I'm going to put a little mark like so. And you can see where I kind of stopped. I put that mark to the left of that because I need to put a little elbow with a little bitty bicep. And another little mark like this. So there's his little bicep, and then this hand's going to come over, and we're going to drop it down like two fingers here. And it's going to be a nice 2 fingers there for his little bitty hand. And I want the same thing kind of going on the other side here with 2 little fingers coming down. There's a finger, and there's a finger, like so. I can go ahead and fill that in because I know that's further in the back, and it's going to be in shadow. So there's our 2 little hands. We'll hit this other back leg first, so I want to hit the leg that's closest to me so I can get a better bearing of where that back leg's going to go. So with this here, I'm going to bring a line coming down. We're just going to bring this line all the way down. I'm going to say right about here. That T-Rex is starting to walk. It's got a huge legs here that we're going to bring down. I'm going to start to bring it over. Oops, let me smooth that out a little bit. And we're going to curve this further this way. I based today's drawing on a sculpture of a T-Rex that I was doing some sketches of. Beautifully sculpted, and I kind of like the way that leg comes out, as if he's really putting a lot of weight more on the leg that's further in the distance. And so we're going to bring this down, kind of offering that digigrade back leg. So that means we need to bring a nice kind of leg here with a calf muscle. There's that calf muscle, and then the digigrade back leg. Something like this. I think from here we got to span these toes out because he's putting all his weight. He's kind of lifted this leg up, but he's put a lot of weight on there. So we're going to add just a little edge here. Now for these feet, it can get a little complicated. So I think the simplest way is we're going to give it 3 toes. So I'm going to curve this for 1 toe. I'm going to bring it over, maybe a little point there for another toe. I'm going to bring this over for another toe. So I have 3 claws right there. Now I can just add a little bit of detail like this, and we'll go back in and add some more detail, but I think this helps right now for what we're doing, just to be able to see where he's grounded there. Excuse me. Next, let's go ahead and hit this back leg, the one that's a little further back. And I'm going to start with that calf, and I'm going to curve it down about right there, very similar to this back of this calf muscle. And then I'll bring this down, and we'll start to offer that digigrade again, where it curves over like this. Now here we're going to add a little claw back behind, like so. I saw in some of my resources, and I kind of like the look of that, and I'll drop that down. And I'll bring this over, and I'll drop this down. It's going to kind of curve to offer a nice big foot there. And then we can bring this over and do the same thing. 3 little toes. 1, bring it over, 2, bring it over, 3. And to better define these, I'm just going to bring this up, bring this over, bring this up, and bring that over. And there's our big T-Rex foot. Again, we'll add a little bit of shadow here and a little bit of details, but we are trucking along with our T-Rex. And so far, I really can appreciate the proportions that we have on this. And proportions, it's a pretty big word. We talked about that last week. That is just everything in relation to everything else. And right now, it does look like our T-Rex hands are about the right size for the head. The legs are about the right size. Nothing is glaringly off proportion. So we're going to go ahead and add this tail. And I think I want to pretend that this belly goes underneath here and pops up right about here. And I'm going to put a little curve where it's curving like this. And then I'm going to curve it the other way. Try and make that look somewhat natural there. And then it's going further in the distance, so I'm going to just have it curve. Kind of smooth that out. So it's got a little curve this way, and then curve this way. And I think that makes a nice tail going further in the distance. So it's going to be a little pointy at the end. And then I'll start to bring it back like so, and all the way up here. So you can tell that it's going further back. And right now, I really kind of like how that tail goes further back because he's starting to walk towards us, this big menacing T-Rex. And so I want to go ahead and add a little bit of shadow here, ground our image, just offer a little bit of ground here. I think can go a long way. It's always a little frustrating when our figure appears to be floating and I'm thinking, oh, I don't really want him floating. I want him grounded. So we're going to add a little weight right there. And all I did was scribble some lines here underneath his feet to help with that. So let's add a little bit of shadow here, not too much. Let's not get carried away with shadow, but typically our light source is coming from up top. I think in the time of the T-Rex, it'd be pretty similar because our sun will be above him. And we're going to want to add some shadows then. If the sun is shining above, our shadows will be cast underneath here. So one shadow we're pretty safe to add is this back leg shadow, like that. I'm going to go ahead and kind of fill that in. I think that helped right there. We're going to add a little marks just kind of coming over like this because this is his back muscle here. And I want to add a few little wrinkles right here and then even kind of start to add marks coming down here, marks coming down here. And I'm just going to make this dark right here along this edge. You can add nice line work right here, just little hatch marks. If you're using a pencil, you can smear it. And that helps make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. I enjoy that look right there. We want to do something pretty similar here with this arm, with that light source back there. I'm going to add some shadow right here. There's going to be a lot of shadow, maybe even a little shadow on this side of the arm. Coming down, and I'm going to just put some shadow, maybe not all the way to the belly edge, but pretty close, just to separate it there. And I'm just going to put a nice little shadow down here. Maybe a couple little folds or something. I'll put a fold coming up right here. A little fold right there. And one thing you can do again is you can add little marks like so, just to make it look like it's got more of a soft edge. And I like that look. We'll do the same thing over here. Just kind of bring that over. And maybe a little bit of shadow on this. Put a little definition in that bicep. And that looks, I'm okay with that. I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and add maybe a little detail to this nice neck right here. I'm going to start right where that mouth ends and add a nice little mark here. I'm going to do the same thing, maybe right below it. And I'm just going to make this one kind of come over like so. This one will have a little more shadow, so I'm just going to put maybe a shadow right in here. Maybe offer a little bit more. Shadow like that. It's kind of fun to add some of these shadows, makes our T-Rex really pop and come to life. And we'll add maybe just a little shadow, maybe a little bit of marks right here. And maybe a few little shadow marks. Just some nice little wrinkles right in here, because that's that big muscular kind of neck he's got going on. And I can appreciate that. I think that looks okay there. I might continue these out just a little bit. The head, I feel like we've kind of conquered a lot, but maybe we can add just a little bit of shadow back here. So I'm just going to put a mark, maybe another little mark back here, just to represent where the skull is kind of ending, where it connects to the spinal cord back in here. So you kind of got to envision what's going on underneath. And there's a lot of nice little folds we can probably add, you know, coming over. And these little details are nice. You don't have to just add them everywhere, but just in a few places, maybe even something like that. I think that helps there a little bit. We might even add just a little bit of marks here. Maybe a small little mark right there to represent that nostril. I think that does help there. We don't need to go crazy with details on the back. I will add maybe just a few little marks like so, just to represent maybe what's going on underneath the skin there, and then we'll just add some shadows to this back leg and call our T-Rex done. So we're going to add a nice shadow right here going all the way down this leg. And I'm just going to simply bring that just running right along the edge of that leg, thickening up that line, and maybe throwing just a few little lines for kind of a kneecap kind of thing, like that. And then right down here where we hit our kind of digigrade part, I'm going to add just a little bit of marks with that toe coming down, and maybe this toe coming down. Ooh, that came out a little bit better than I thought, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good there as a big T-Rex leg. So there'd be a continued shadow underneath the tail. We want to continue that over like so. I'm going to add a few little marks here. Now, a big question for you guys is, what color is a T-Rex? If we wanted to color this, how would we know? Well, we don't really know. We don't know, but scientists can certainly guesstimate kind of the colors of T-Rex based on the region they lived in or their habitat. But we don't know, so you can have a lot of fun if you wanted to pull out some colored pencils. You can make this T-Rex, greenish color. I've seen a great illustration where the T-Rex had a real vibrant red face, but then it faded to a green. You can make this T-Rex purple if you wanted to. So whatever colors you want to choose, it's super fun because dinosaurs do offer that great latitude of picking various colors. So this completes our T-Rex drawing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and sign my piece here. Put the year. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It was a lot of fun drawing this T-Rex. I hope you guys practice your shadows and maybe a little bit of texture on this one. And you guys have a wonderful day. Take care.